Today's episode is sponsored by The John Campea Show. Find The John Campea Show wherever you get your podcasts. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it, especially if you love the movies?
Hey, my name is King, or as some of you might know me better, Israel. I've gotten around, but hopefully you recognize me from my own channel, King Tannic. There's a new show coming to the Burnettwork that I think is pretty exciting. Welcome to the Otaku Experience, hosted by yours truly. There is going to be a weekly series where we dive into the news and the world of anime, manga, and whatever the heck else Japan has to offer us. The show will be pre-recorded and premiere on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Time or 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Burnettwork YouTube channel.
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun or wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and the as-yet undefined existential Mr. Rogers. That's right, me, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm, of course, Rob casting at you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is Robservations episode number 860. I can't believe you've been here all that time with me, but you have been, and you know what? I'm always bringing you interesting stuff, and I'm actually quite excited to talk to this next guest. We used to stream together with the late, great John Schnepp on Collider Heroes. It started out as AMC, then it was Collider. You've probably seen her work on, well, she did some excellent documentary work on the Xmen, and as you all know, I feel that for me, the way I love Star Trek on television, the Xmen were really my jam in comics, and I started watching or reading the Xmen, I don't know, late 79, 80. Then they teamed up with the Teen Titans, it was great. Darkseid and Dark Phoenix. It was amazing. But her name is Comic Book Girl 19, or Danika at 19, but with Roman numerals. And she has created a Kickstarter for a seminal film that I've been watching since 1988, and I'm very excited to have her on this show to tell us about her Kickstarter that she launched yesterday for a documentary about 1988's Akira. It is so good to have you here, Danika. Welcome to Robservations.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Rob.
It's great to see you again, and I have to say, I remember... I don't remember if I started reading the Marvel Prestige version of Akira first before I saw the movie. But when I first moved to LA, my first Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, was 1988. And I went by myself because I just moved to California from Seattle. And the one thing I bought there was Akira on Lazer-disc. Yes. And I hadn't been able to see it, and it was subtitled. Actually, it wasn't subtitled. It was in Japanese. So there was no subtitles on it. There's no English translation, and my roommate and I, we snagged this poor Japanese exchange student on campus, and we're like, "Hey, dude, can you come over to our house and translate?" Like, he was like being polite, and we had him there for like 5 hours, and every 5 minutes we stopped the movie and said, "Okay, what'd they say?" And even with them translating, it was sort of incomprehensible. But then, Akira, the first time I saw it, I was blown away by the use of light. I'd never seen an animated film that the lights of an urban environment, whether it was the neon. I remember that first when they walk into the bar in the beginning and you hear the buzz of the neon and they go down the steps and enter the seedy bar in the beginning of the film. I just was blown away. I was blown away by the movie.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and you have great taste in manga and comics, and I have to ask you, where did you begin your journey and your love of Akira? When did you first see it, and what did you think of the film?
I first saw it on Sci-Fi Channel. They had a big major event. Oh, Sci-Fi Channel, we're playing Akira. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I've just been hearing about it. I had, seen things about it in Wizard Magazine. And I was very excited to finally watch it. And it was so funny when it was going on. It was during dinner time. And my mom kept being like, Danika, come in here, eat your dinner. Stop watching that thing. I'm just like going in there like, like trying to eat as fast as I can so I can go back out in the living room and watch Akira. It was such a fun, magical experience, even if it wasn't a perfect viewing experience. It was adrenaline fueled, much like the movie.
Well, it's interesting too because Marvel never finished the manga. They didn't put it all out, and it wasn't until later they started. They released I think it's 6 volumes in soft bound, and then they put out the 30th anniversary box set in hardcover. So I had to buy that.
Yes, I have that too. It's so nice.
It's fantastic, and I have the figure of Kaneda in 6 scale, and the Kaneda's bike, the 6 scale bike that they recently reissued, and it's become such a the film has grown in stature over the years, and I think it really, like you had said in your Kickstarter campaign video, which is quite excellent. By the way, I have pinned the link to your Kickstarter campaign video to the top of the chat, so it is at the live chat. You can go up to the chat and just find the link to your Kickstarter campaign. Very impressive campaign. I have to show some things because I really love some of the artwork that you did for the campaign, which is like, this was very cool. I mean, there you are on Kaneda's bike, and I really love that how you leaned into the good for education, the slogan that's on the back of on the back of Kaneda's jacket, his seminal jacket.
Bad for education, but I felt like good for education. That's my documentary.
Yeah, which I love that. I love that you did that. But I think that you've done a great job here. Now, over the years, after that first screening of Akira on TV, did you watch it a lot? Did you want to know more about it? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to get my hands on at the time. I mean, it was much harder, for you, but it was still difficult for me to get my hands on a copy of it. It wasn't until, I'm not sure, I have a DVD of it, but I can't remember like pinpoint exactly when I bought my DVD of it. But I did recently get the 4K restoration, which is so worth the money. It is so beautiful. It's fantastic. But yeah, I've been into anime for so long now, and this is just like one of those iconic animes that, like, if you like anime, you need to experience Akira. And it's one that's like one of the gateway drugs, especially for like the more adult animes. Because up until then, I'd been watching like, Sailor Moon and, like all the like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. So this was definitely like, oh, I mean, there's some other stuff on Sci-Fi Channel too. Like on Saturday Animes, they'd play like some other stuff that was like, oh, a little risque, and yeah, but it just left such a lasting impression. And I just remember specifically one of the best Akira experiences I ever had was I was at Dragon Con, and Joe the Peacock was there doing a presentation about Akira. And if you don't know who he is, he's the man who amassed the largest collection of production art from the movie. He has had a lot of just cells and background paintings and all this amazing stuff. And he would play the movie and then pause it every few minutes and then break down why that scene was so incredible and point out all these like little things that you'd never even notice or never even like pay attention to or not even catch because they're so quick. And then not only would he pause the movie to break it down for you, but then he would like drag out like the background painting and show you exactly what's going on here. And he's like, look at this background painting. Like, you only see this much of this painting in this shot that's like 2 seconds. And then he would show all the details and all the care in this painting where like someone went into these office windows and painted like individual details and stuff, which is just like mind blowing. I mean, it's really incredible. And that I already had a love for Akira, but that presentation was like really brought home for me, like, wow, this really is something that's totally unique and has never been done on this level before and will never be done on this level again. Like, it's totally its own thing in its own class.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too is it's such a, I mean, it is a very adult story, even though it stars teenagers, and it's such an amalgamation of different elements of science fiction and action, and it's got George Miller-esque Road Warrior motorcycle chases, and another thing that cannot be stressed is the music, the soundtrack of Akira. I remember as soon as in the movie when it's actually a CD, the CD jukebox, and you hear that incredible piece of music that plays during the motorcycle chase. That was one of the first things I had to do after seeing the movie, probably the next day, was I had to have that soundtrack.
Absolutely.
And I remember tracking it down some store in LA, and it was like $40. It was a CD. I'm like, I didn't care. It was like $40 for a CD, which I actually still have it. It has a white cover with this like gold leaf on it. It looked important, so I spent the $40. But the soundtrack was groundbreaking. The sound design was I remember I kept showing it to people, like even the footfalls when people are walking down the streets, during that riot in the beginning, and I couldn't. The film really, in a way, it's maybe not fair to say this, but how I felt when I saw Blade Runner the first time, when I walked out of the theater on that June day, and actually it's going to be 43 years old in less than a month, Blade Runner, but I felt kind of the same way when I saw Akira because of the visual stylings of it all. It was really overwhelming, and the everything about it was so. And I was left puzzled by the ending. It's not one of those things where it was very Japanese and it's sort of very Asian. It didn't end the way we Westerners might have expected. I'm like, wait, what happened?
Yes.
And then when you go in and read the manga, which I strongly recommend everybody reads, because it accentuates, it doesn't take away from the movie. There's so much more there, but also they kind of work in tandem with one another.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe one day somebody will make a 30-hour version of Akira and adapt the whole thing. But so, I think what I find interesting as well with what you're doing here is I had made DVD special feature documentaries for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I worked on Lord of the Rings and the Xmen movies and things like that. And as the studios have sort of given up spending decent amounts of money on these kinds of documentaries, the fans have sort of filled in. They've come in, and there's Nightmare on Elm Street documentaries, Friday the 13th documentaries. There's been some Psycho documentaries. There's been some really great stuff because the fans, and there's a new documentary on the films of '82. But watching your Kickstarter campaign, and it's really beautifully done, and seeing what you want to do. I mean, it's really ambitious. You want to do it top shelf and A-list. Yes. By the way, I just want to say that Geekin with James Hancock just sent in a $20 super chat and said, I just backed the doc.
Oh, thank you so much.
Can't wait to see it. What other Japanese animated movies would you place in the pantheon alongside Akira?
That is such a great question. I mean, as far as I feel like as far as animation wise, Ghost in the Shell, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like one that's just, even though Ghost in the Shell, I feel like its plot gets a little convoluted, the animation style is just so beautiful. And the things that they're able to pull off and the things they animate, again, are just like, much like Akira, it's just like mind blowing. It's a little different, than Akira, but definitely Ghost in the Shell, I would say, is up there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I do think Akira paved the way for things like Satoshi Kon, who did Paranoia Agent and Perfect Blue. And
Oh, Perfect Blue is so good.
So good. And
So
now
good.
there's like, I mean, even mind-blowing movies recently like Belle and Weathering with You and those and Your Name.
Yes.
Those are very different kinds of movies, but I feel that Akira paved the way toward theatrically released anime from, and of course Miyazaki's work coming to America through Disney. I think Akira was really responsible for all of that. It opened the door.
Absolutely. It was the anime that brought anime to the West. Like, it popularized anime and made people look at Japan in a different way. Like, people were like, oh, wait, Japan's cool. This is cool. Like, what's going on over here? I need more of this. And yeah, I mean, it paved the way for everybody.
But so I wanted to go, you're doing this documentary, you're going A-list, you need a lot of support to get it done.
Yes.
And I wholeheartedly, the thing about you in particular is you've already done some great exploratory documentary work in the comic world. Your Xmen series was essential to read. And I wanted to ask you as an aside to watch, I should say. I got to ask you about, like, I love the Xmen. The X-Men. I love the Hickman run because I really got to the point where I've read so many X-Men comics for like 40 years. I'm like, what is it? What are they going to do new? Everything was just, they were just rehashing variations of storylines they'd done over and over and over and over and over again. And I remember, I'd heard about Powers of X or Powers of 10, House of X, either way.
House of X, yeah.
House of X and Powers of 10. Yeah, but I would say Power because of Moira's reboot, so that I didn't know. I was like, what? But I was blown away by what Hickman did because it was so weird. Like it was so bizarre. Did you dig that at all? I mean, or because now I've been going back and buying the omnibuses and reading the whole run, and I mean the Hellfire Gala and all this. It's so weird, but I like it. I don't know if I love it.
Yeah, it's a love-hate thing. I mean, a lot of stuff with X-Men is love-hate. I mean, it's just like, it's like being in an abusive relationship, liking the X-Men, like 100%. I think with Hickman's Hawks and Pox, I really enjoyed, again, like you were saying, the weirdness. And I liked seeing like, oh, wow, we're doing something totally new. And it's like, there's so much Dune in Hawks and Pox, and I'm a huge Dune fanatic.
That's funny.
So
I had not
like,
heard that, Hawks and Pox. That's very funny.
That's what they call it on the street,
Yeah, I love it. I didn't know that. See, because I haven't talked to anybody about it. So.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe I don't know. I hope I'm saying it right. Maybe I'm like saying
there
it
a
wrong.
lot of Dune. You're right. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of Dune stuff that I caught in there that I really enjoyed, and I think that it's, again, because like they've done the whole thing like, oh, the mutants are being persecuted. You can only do that for so long. And we've been doing that for how many decades now? I mean, like we've been doing that for a while. So I like the idea of the reboot and giving them their own sovereign nation of Krakoa. But then like also just like taking away the death factor is really interesting, but also like presents problems because then it's like, well, what does it matter? Like now, like now they're immortals. Like, I don't know, like who cares? And then, and I love the idea of getting them all together. Like they're not fighting anymore. Like they're like, hey, Apocalypse, come to our island and hang out. And he's like, this is what I've wanted the whole time, like mutant supremacy. Like I love that. There's so many things that I really love. But at the same time, there's like a lot of stuff that I was like, after the initial run of the Hawks and Pox, and when you started just getting into like them doing their thing, I felt like it lost a lot of steam.
Yeah.
He was just throwing a lot of ideas out and seeing kind of what stuck. And like nothing was really sticking. And I felt like there's like these interesting things. Like, okay, so there's the Jean, Logan, Scot triangle, right? And so now they're all living on the moon together. And then they have adjoining rooms. If you look at like the diagram of like, they have like adjoining rooms. And it's like, but then we never talk about it. And it's like, there's just like these little teeny little things they put in there. But I'm just like, can we please just get into their throuple? Like, I'm here for their throuple.
Yes.
I'm not getting anything about it. We're getting all this other stuff about other people. I don't care, okay? Like, I don't care. I want to hear about their thing, what they're doing. And I never really got that. And I just kind of gave up after the Hellfire Gala. I was like, I feel very conflicted about the Hellfire Gala.
Yeah, that was the thing for me, is as I've been reading more and I've been buying, because I didn't realize how much there really was.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been buying, and as I keep buying these books, I'm like, because I have all the omnibuses, just because I like having individual issues is such a pain in the ass to deal with if you want to read them. So, but I just, you know, thank you for having, because no one I know has been reading it. So
yes,
but I think you're right.
There's too many events though. They kept doing all these different events, and I just hate it. It's like, please just tell one story. Whatever that is. Like, I don't need 10 side events where I gotta buy 50 comics, and it's just too much, you know. And then, you know, as far as like the Hellfire Gala thing is, it's like, oh, we love dressing them up in cool little outfits. I love that too. I love fashion. Okay, like I'm not hating, but at the same time, like, I read that issue and there's like George R.R. Martin is in it, and like Kevin Feige is in it, and I was like, what? And then like Patton Oswalt in it. I was like, who? What? Like, no. And there was all this like weird like masturbatory stuff in there that I was just like, I can't like deal with this. And I also think that, like, I don't know, the Hellfire Gala or the Met Gala. So, you know, the Hellfire Gala is a play on the Met Gala, where you have all these celebrities and they dress up in their little outfits and then they go take pictures and we all talk about it the next day, you know? So that's what they're aping here. But I mean, that's just like, I feel like that's such an elitist, like kind of awful thing that happens every year. That's like, not like awesome necessarily, even though I love the pictures and we all look at them, whatever. But I mean, to have the X-Men aping that sort of elitism, you know, it was just like weird to me, where it's like, aren't you trying to make something better? Like, are you just going to do what like lame rich people do? You know, like,
well, and at least make me an action figure line. You know, where I can, I mean, I want the Hellfire Gala, everyone's outfits. I mean,
and I gave up. I stopped buying them. I was like, I got to take a break. I'm being abused too much. And like, and then I've never got the answer, and maybe somebody in the chat knows, but like, why is Jean in her 60s costume with the mask? Like, why is she in the 60s costume with the green dress? I don't understand. Like, why she's, I guess it's this like late 60s, early 70s costume or something. But like, I'm like, what is the Marvel Girl costume? Why is she wearing that? I was so confused. I was such a hater. I really didn't like that.
Well, we'll get back to Akira, okay. But Jermaine King says, Rob, I've been lucky enough to have been part of Danika's community since her Comic Book Girl 19 days. Her anime cosplay skills are A+, and her Dune book clubs are at a goddess level.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. High praise, high praise.
How excited are we for Dune Part 2?
You know, I'm excited to see the sandworms. I'm excited to see, like, I love the sandworm. He's my favorite guy in the whole thing. I love Stilgar. I love, like, there's so many things I like, but I'm not a huge fan of Chalamet and Zendaya. So I'm like, we'll see, you know. I wish it was a little weirder. But I'm a purist. I get it. You know, like, I have a lot of needs that aren't going to be met.
I've got my David Lynch 4K.
Ooh.
This is the German, very sought after. It's got all the different. It's got the Spice Diver cut of Lynch's Dune that was taken off. So, yeah, I'm a big. This thing it's incredible.
That's serious business.
It is, yeah. It's pretty amazing. I mean, I'm a big Frank Herbert Dune fan. The 6 Frank Herbert books.
Yes. I like to call it being an orthodox Herbertian. You know, I'm orthodox Herbertian. This is how I roll.
I am too. I went to high school with his daughter, and I never got to meet him. But we talked a lot about him, and her Brian Herbert is her dad. So it was a very interesting. I mean, those books. It's so funny to me because the first books I bought from the Science Fiction Book Club, it was the first 3 Dune books because that was all that was out when I was a kid. You know, Dune, Messiah, and Children of Dune. And then I remember when God Emperor of Dune came out, it was a huge deal. Like everybody was talking about it. I mean, it was like The Empire Strikes Back coming out. Like, oh my God.
I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have been there. Like,
it was
oh,
great
what a moment.
stuff. You know, and then Heretics and Chapter House. But and then those books got weirder. I loved it.
So weird.
So
I
weird.
love every minute of it. Like, I just love it. And it's so crazy too, because you fall in love with those characters in the original Atreides. You know, there's just so many great characters to fall in love with. And I'm so surprised that Frank Herbert was able to get me to love characters more in like the later books, like Miles Tegg and Odrade are like, like how I love them even more than I love the original characters, which is like, wow, like I don't know how you pulled that off, but you did.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And we stand those Duncans. We love all the Duncans.
All of them. All of them. It's going to be what I find really interesting. I mean, I had heard that Denis Villeneuve was going to do basically the Paul Atreides story. So he was going to make 3 Dune. Originally, it was going to be Dune, Dune Prophet, and Dune Messiah was going to be the Dune trilogy.
Oh,
and then I don't know. I mean, I have not heard anything after that because I figured they would have made at least Dune as one movie. It seems silly to me that I mean, I know they didn't want to take the risk. They had to see if the first one would work, I guess. But it's going to be interesting to see when people who think. I mean, I love people who are like, "This is a white savior myth."
Right.
Just wait and see.
Just keep watching.
Yeah, keep reading.
Give it a minute.
But I'm excited. I mean, I think it's going to be how Christopher Walken is Padishah Emperor Shaddam the Fourth.
I am not sure about that. We'll see how that works.
Yeah, I'm a little like
because Christopher Walken's like Christopher Walken, you know, like so it's like, is this going to be the Padishah Emperor or is this going to be Christopher Walken with like a silly wig on or something? You know, like what are we going to get? Although I love Christopher Walken. Again, no hate on Chris Walken.
No, we just.
Stand. I mean,
him. He's no Jose Ferrer though in the role. So
right. It's and you know like, and two like Leto is like Duke Leto is like cousins with Shaddam, and like so you'd think they'd have more of a that Mediterranean look. Yes. About them, and Chris Walken is not very Mediterranean.
No,
he's not. But I love him. He's such a cute guy.
It'll be interesting. Okay, but now back to your documentary.
Okay.
So you decided to do this, and you're not doing it. You're going all out. I mean, you're not looking for $50,000. You know, you're looking. You're going to go all out and make this slick and my friends that made the 1982 documentary, they just sold it. It's going to be airing on the CW. This summer. So
congratulations.
Yeah, really fantastic. But I would say, I would imagine you're looking for some kind of a theatrical release or have it picked up for distribution?
Yes, 100%. That is my business plan. I would like to have it in theaters, and I would like to send it to all sorts of film festivals, international film festivals, all that stuff. And then, have it, hopefully sell it to some sort of streaming service or services. For sure. Who's in the market?
Well, I love that you're going big on this. That you're really, because I think that's important. I think it's doable. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. But so, what made you decide to do it?
Okay, so I was streaming on Twitch, and we were doing Saturday Anime, and we were watching Akira on Mystery Danica Theater. And I was drinking a lot of wine that day, and I was just like flipping out while I was watching it. Cause like, it's like I show the movie and then like there's a little like picture of me in the bottom. And I'm just like, somebody drew this. Like, do people understand? Just like talking about like all these like little details again that like people might not notice and pick up, and just being like, this is incredible, mind-blowing. Like I was just flipping out the whole time. I was just yelling about how somebody drew this. And then by the end of it, I was a little in my cups and I was like crying. Like I was like, this is so beautiful. Thank you, Japan. Like I was like literally crying, like so emotional. And at that time, I was thinking like, I was already thinking I wanted to do a documentary. Like I wanted to do like a full-length feature film because I've done those hour-long, Xmen documentaries.
Yeah,
And so it's like,
which are really, it shows that people doubt you in terms of what you're able to do. Those X-Men documentaries are a great reason why people should support your Kickstarter.
Absolutely. So it's like, I've got that under my belt and I've got, 10 years of YouTube and I just feel like I'm ready to take the next step. And so I was like taking a walk and thinking about it. And I was like, man, I should do a documentary about Akira because this is such an important, iconic anime. And I feel like I know a lot of the right people for this. And I already have some kind of hookups with some different folks, and it's just like seems like the perfect time to do it, especially with all the AI that's happening right now. And there's all these really interesting debates about computer generated art, and this is something that is almost entirely made by hand.
Right.
And it is, to me, just so impressive to see what humans can do. Like going back to Dune, Frank Herbert was a humanist. He's like, fuck robots. We don't care about AI and computers. Like we don't even have them. Like
the
there's
Butlerian
no
jihad.
we got rid of it. We got rid of it. Okay. So like, what can humans do? Like, what are we capable of? And that was, his question. And like, for me, it's like looking at what we've done in hand-drawn animation. Like this is what humans can do with their hands. And it is so impressive. I mean, it's just like on another level. And again, I have all these questions too of like how they did what they did. And so this documentary would be an opportunity for me to go in and hopefully find out the answers to some of my questions that I have of how they were able to pull off some of this stuff. Because I can't figure it out. I'm just like, wait, what? Like you really, what? Like for example, the holograms. In it, you see in the city scene, there's like these like little holograms, and they're moving and they're doing this stuff, and it's like that was achieved with airbrush. And like I used to be an airbrush artist. Like airbrushes are so finicky. You're telling me that there's somebody that was so good and precise with an airbrush that they were able to do 14 or more frames a second perfectly with an airbrush of this half translucent paint of something that's moving too, it's just like, what? Like, that's so mind blowing to me. So I need to know more. And I've also heard things like it was, he wanted Katsuhiro Otomo, the director and the creator of Akira. He wanted this to be like a Hollywood film. Like he wanted this animated like it was shot in Hollywood. And so there's a rumor that it was done in 28 frames a second because that's what film cameras are, is 28 frames a second. And normally animation is 14 frames a second.
Yeah, in Japan, right.
So it's like I've heard conflicting reports, like some of it's done in 28 frames a second, some of it's done in 14. Maybe there's some other like thing, and I just want to know, it's like, well, when is it 28 frames a second? When is it 14? Like how many frames exactly are there? Like I need to know.
No, I mean, I absolutely. And like I said, it was the thing that struck me was light. Light is animated as well, and even the way that when car lights or the front lights of the motorcycles would flare out into the camera. I mean, people joke about how J.J. Abrams brought lens flares to Star Trek, but Akira brought lens flares to animation.
Exactly. There's no lens.
There's no lens, and it was like you said. It's interesting because even the camera angles. I grew up watching. I loved Super Robot anime of the '70s, and I loved Space Battleship Yamato, and then we had Robotech in the 80s and things like that. But when I saw Akira, it was such a major leap beyond what we'd seen coming out of. And the thing is, what was really interesting was the Japanese science fiction has always been fairly heady. The versions we got in America was dumbed down and sort of kidified, especially things like Star Blazers. They couldn't show anybody die, even though in the original they certainly did. And it was really interesting to see, like you said, it was shot like it was animated as if they were shooting it on location with cameras, and like it looked like a Hollywood film. And I was really blown away by how they did that, and we just got another super chat, a $20 super chat. Destiny Fomo says, seeing Comic Book Girl here just made me cry a bit. Those comic book girl Xmen videos got me through a really tough time during my teenage years. Thank you, comic book girl.
Well, thank you, Destiny. I really appreciate it.
And then
Pleasure.
Zachary Zabayle says, so basically my two favorite YouTubers are on here. Comic Book Girl 19 is my fucking jam. So hard, I fucking can't right now. You two represent peak YouTube for me. Well, Zachary, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Now,
Please.
now how long?
My cat. I don't know if you guys hear my cat in
We
the
love
background
cats.
whining at me.
Cats are very
Come be on
welcome
the
here.
stream.
How long, assuming you get all the funding, and you should,
Yes.
how long do you think your production time is going to be? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 18 months? Sooner? How long do you think it'll take?
I'm thinking 2 years.
Okay.
I'm hoping less. Could be more. It depends
Right.
on how things go. But I'm saying 2 because I feel like that's gives me enough time. And I feel like the main thing that's going to be something that takes the longest is building relationships with people like Kodansha in Japan.
Yes.
They are the people who own the rights to Akira. And so it's very important to build a working relationship with them, which takes time. And, that's one thing that I have a lot of respect for with the Japanese and how they do business is that they're not motivated by money.
Right.
And they want to make sure you're cool. And in order to do that, you got to go hang out with them. You got to do presentations for them. You need to go out drinking with them, possibly singing karaoke with them, whatever. You've got to be down and you got to be cool. And it's going to take a minute and they have to trust you and see that you're real. And so it may take time for me to build that relationship in order to get the rights that I need for certain clips or music or whatever I'd like for the documentary, whatever it needs. Because I definitely really would love to use clips from the film, obviously, for this. So like stuff like that is what I think is going to take like the longest amount of time. Because I already have like interviews being set up and also the editing and stuff. I mean, we're going to do all these interviews that are going to be very long. And that's one of the things in the Kickstarter is that because it's going to take a while for the movie to come out, I'm offering access to full-length interviews with people before the movie comes out. So you'll get to see interviews with people that we've been doing. And then, later it'll be all cut up and put into some fun salad for you. So an interview salad for you during the film. But yeah.
And it'll be interesting. Are you going to delve into its legacy, like how it's influenced
Absolutely.
film? Yeah, because I would think you could even start doing that now. I'm sure there's a lot of even American filmmakers, a lot of name. I mean, people like, well, not American, but people like Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve. I'll bet you'll be able to get them to talk about.
I mean, I would love to. I would love to. I mean, we've been talking about potentially getting Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, and even like if we could get, Anno, who did Evangelion, like that would be huge. I mean, there's just like so many different people that I'd love to talk to that I feel like there's so much love for this film. And if we can get the funding and, look like we're legit people who have funding to have interviews, then hopefully we'll have more serious people come forward and bigger names and things like that. But right now, we already have some great people. We've got Joe the Peacock, the guy that I was talking about earlier, who's like an Akira expert. He's such a funny, great speaker. I love how he's going to be a fantastic and hilarious interview.
And you can start scanning his art right away.
Yeah, I mean, he donated it to the Beans. He donated it to the LA Academy Museum.
Oh, right, sure.
And so, but he can see it and bring me in, and so like he can have me go over there, and then we can take a look at all the stuff and get B-roll and like get shots of the artwork and things like that. So
they'll probably let you. Yeah, they'll let you scan it, so you'll need it to have it like scanned high resolution, so you can.
Yes. So with him, he can help me, be the bridge with them and then kind of get some of that sort of that stuff, which will be fantastic. And we also have Ed Piskor, who's the Eisner Award-winning comic book artist, Hip Hop Family Tree, but he's also a YouTuber, cartoonist kayfabe, and he knows so much about Akira and Katsuhiro Otomo. He's like such a comics historian. So we've got him. We've also got Mike Haller, who is the producer who helped write the English screenplay for Akira. and he helped to, bring it over to America. And then we also have Marvin Gleicher, who's the CEO and co-founder of Manga Entertainment. So we've got those names already, and then we're working on a few, other people. I don't want to say any other names until people have been confirmed. But we have a few other people, and I really love to find some Japanese artists who worked on the film, if possible, if they want to be involved. But again, that's something that takes time to build relationships, and everybody wants to make sure that you're legit before they
Sure,
say
no,
yes.
but I think that I don't think you'll have a problem, doing that, because once you start that ball rolling, people want to be involved, and it's great that we have the remastered 4K version of the movie, so you can work off that when you do get clips, and they'll let you'll get all that.
Yeah.
Well, so where
so.
can people, like, you have a really impressive, again, the Kickstarter campaign, the link to the Kickstarter is in the top of the chat, so you can go there right now. Tell us about the campaign. It started yesterday. It's running through June 30th.
Yes.
What can you tell people about the campaign itself?
So the campaign, we've got a lot of different reward tiers, 13 different reward tiers. They kind of all build on each other. And there's a lot of cute merch from, you can get just digital stuff if you want to do just digital stuff. But if you like merchandise, we've got stuff where it's like, you can get a sticker or an 8x10 cosplay photo, or add to that an 11x17 poster, or add to that you can get a t-shirt. I mean, it just like a button, it like just, and there's all these really nice images of all the different merch items that are on there. And then, our initial goal is $255,000, $555. So that's our initial goal. And with that money, we will be able to fly in out-of-state interviews, be able to shoot on 4K cameras, shoot on a soundstage in Burbank. I have an executive producer, Mark Alamaraz, who has Mobion Studio in Burbank, so we'll be shooting out of there. And then, just pay to have the thing edited, shot, subtitles. I mean, there's so many things that go into making something like this. Like, it's a lot. It adds up very, very quickly. And the thing is, too, is, the more we get, the more people I can hire, so the faster we can make it, too. I mean, that's a whole other thing. Because right now, I'm planning on editing it, but I would love to be able to hire some people to help me edit, some co-editors, get some help in there, because it's going to be a lot of footage to have to go through, and it's going to be pretty massive. But like I said, doing the full-length interviews, like editing those as we go along, will be really helpful for me, too, so I can kind of take some stuff while I'm going and, like, put it away, be like, oh, I definitely want to use this line. I definitely want to use that line. But, yeah, so it's going to be... Oh, yeah, and then we're going to... there's going to be an LA screening here when it's finished. We're going to do a private online live screening, too, with everyone. And, at first, I didn't know about adding... a Blu-ray, but I think I may do an add-on for a Blu-ray. I've been thinking about doing that because I've had a lot of people asking me about that. And if you people in the chat, like, I don't know how you feel about it. I love Blu-rays, but I don't know. I don't know how many people love Blu-rays.
You've come to the right channel here. We do a weekly physical media show, and I'm a huge collector of discs from all over the world.
Yes,
so,
yes.
And I think people, like, for something like this too, people want to have it's something that you've made, and because people know you, I think people want to have those kinds of things.
Yeah.
They want to support you. Plus, you'll be able to, like, I just want to show, like, this artwork that you've created. Here's you, who doesn't love this? And again, for the people that weren't here in the beginning, I love what you've done in terms of everything that you're doing to support this. And you can get some of this artwork as well. I just thought you did a really great job doing this stuff. So it's very, very cool.
My Danika. Danika. And that bike that I'm on is like a toy bike that's like this big.
Yeah. It looks great.
My friend Alan Amato shot it. I've done a lot of modeling with him, and so he did such a masterful job of shooting that toy and putting me on it and photoshopping it together.
It's great.
Really, it came together so well. And then the cartoon Danika is from Matthew Skiff, who is another friend of mine. He's a fantastic artist. And so he was the first person I was like, hey, I really need someone to make me in the style of Akira, and he does such a great job with stuff like that, of drawing on model for other people's like animation styles, and I think he really knocked it out of the park. And I did, you may notice my hair is a little different than what it was when I shot the photos.
No, it's great.
I joined a Shaolin temple, and it's part of my Buddhist thing, so I'm a part-time disciple, but I do have a Danika wig that I do plan to use. I plan right now to use for the documentary, just for continuity, to have hair continuity. Because again, this is going to take potentially a couple years to film, and so my hair is always changing. So it'll be good to have like one style and just be, ready to go.
That makes sense. Our King Tanik, who does our own Otaku Experience show every Thursday, tomorrow, I'm hoping there'll be another episode. Will there be, King Tanik? I think there will be. He sends in a super sticker. And Zachary Zabayle says, Comic Book Girl 19's untouchable. People wish they could be as brutally honest as her and be so loved. People say they're creators. Get the fuck out. Comic Book Girl 19 is a fucking artiste.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm blushing. Oh.
Well, listen, I don't want to keep you all night long. I want to thank you for coming on the show. And I'm a real fan of what you're doing. I can't wait to see the film. I will purchase. Don't just do a Blu-ray. Do it in 4K too. 4K. Do an HDR.
Oh no, it's gotta be 4K. Like,
do an HDR grade and Dolby Vision and all that. So
that's I want this to be like Akira is so special, and so I want to make something that lives up to, it's also special, and I just want to make sure that it looks very professional and very slick, because Akira deserves that.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for being here, and again, the Kickstarter link is at the top of the chat. It runs from today through June 30th. So don't just support it. Tell your friends to support it, and tell their friends and your family and everybody you know. Call if you're having a high school graduation in the next 30 days. Bro. Make everybody go to support this, because it's ambitious, and it needs.
It is. It's a big
spread
swing.
The word.
It's a big swing, and I'm very grateful to everybody who's already come out to support it, and there's already been a lot of love for it, and so hopefully we can just keep that train going. And this is something that so many people love, and I feel like it deserves to have a really great documentary made about it.
Well, I look forward to bringing you back and maybe showing a clip or two from interviews you're doing once you've succeeded in your Kickstarter campaign and you've been rolling with the production.
Yes, I can't wait.
We can get updates. You can do all of that.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you for being here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do. And yes. I'd love it if you did a video in your spare time about Hickman's X-Men, just a little bit, maybe.
Maybe just
a little
for
bit.
You, just for you, Rob.
And the fans, and there's people in the chat.
Yes. That is
Destiny
one thing.
FOMO would watch it.
For sure. If anything, I would love to come back and do some more X-Men stuff at some point. Absolutely.
And I find it inexplicable that we don't have any X-Men in the. Let me ask you this before you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you think they're going to be able to bring the X-Men into the MCU? We've had Namor, we've got Scarlet Witch, we've got Miss Marvel. How the hell are they going to do it? How can they? Do you have a theory?
I don't have a theory. I have a prayer. And that prayer is that Disney leaves them alone and they never end up in live action. I don't want to see them in the MCU. I used to be so mad and be like, when are they going to be in the MCU? What? And now the way that things have changed, like, so much, like, I don't know, we've turned a corner as a society, as a world, like, as civilization, like, things have changed. And I just feel like they're not going to do it well. Like, they're just going to ruin it, and it's just going to be upsetting to me. And I've already been so upset by the X-Men, and I just can't take any more heartbreak. I just don't know if I can do it. So that's my take. My hot take is like, please just leave them out. Like, we don't need it. It's too late. It's too late now. Messed it up.
I kind of agree with you. By the way, Marcus Wilkins in the chat says, "You're the best Reverend Mother."
Oh, thank you, Uncle Marcus. Uncle Marcus is a co-producer on Akira, the
Oh,
documentary. Yes,
okay.
yes. So he's one of my. He came in at one of our higher tier levels and is a co-producer. And I've actually already been hitting him up and asking him questions like, "What do you think? Should we do the Blu-ray? What do you think?"
Well,
Co-producer?
he's giving you the right answers, which is
Yes.
good. Well,
Yes.
listen, thank you for being here. I wish you all the luck in the world. I don't think you're going to need it. I think you're going to sail across that victory line, whatever.
Thank you
Hope
so much.
hope you get that highest tier though. You need the money to do what you want to do correctly.
It would be fantastic to get the initial one. I'll take anything else on top, just the cherry on top. Just pour it all on me.
Well, thanks again for being here, and come back anytime.
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. I've missed you.
I missed you
It's been
too.
too long. It's
it's
been
great
too
to see you.
long.
It has
It's
been.
been too long. Are you going to be at Monsterpalooza this weekend?
I might. I think I'm going to. I have to go for like a day. A
Right.
friend of mine's having a birthday, and I love Monsterpalooza.
I know. Monsterpalooza is great. Well, I'm going to be there at Monsterpalooza.
All right. Well, Monsterpalooza this weekend. It's in Pasadena at the convention center.
Yes,
Yeah. So
Pasadena.
everybody go Pasadena Convention Center.
Yes.
Go support. Sign up there. Go meet Danika.
Yes.
Dress as
yes.
Tetsuo. See what happens.
I know. I'm kind of thinking about if I can try to put a Tetsuo thing together real quick, but I don't know. We'll see what I can do.
Yeah. Get a prosthetic arm that's pulsating.
Just no big deal. Just something real simple. Just a whole biomechanical arm.
Sure.
It's gonna be fine.
It'll be inflatable bladders or something. Have a little thing. You can just blow it up. Freak
I know.
people out.
Totally. Oh, that'd be the best.
All right, well, everyone, here is the documentary, and go support it. Again, the Kickstarter link is in the top of the chat. I want to thank Danika for being here, and I'm very excited to see where she takes this. So I will see you later. Well, everybody, that was very nice of her to come by. I'm very excited about her documentary. That's going to be very, very cool. And she's just the best. And she's a pistol, that one, and always has been, and you got to love her for it. And now, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the other subject, I got to tell you, I have been thinking a lot about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, here's the thing. Now, I don't want to make this into some toxic fandom diatribe, but you know me, I like to find my articles. So I found an article online that I would like to share with you from 2012. And yes, I know, because it's no fun to find modern articles. I like to find older articles when it comes to fandom, because we can obviously see where fandom is now and where it was, say, a decade ago in 2012. Now, I don't know, it's gotten to the point where sometimes I feel like I've read all these articles before, and maybe I have. I've done 800 shows, 860 shows, but I found this article, Crackinfilms, just another WordPress.com site. Does WordPress.com even exist? Don't even know. But I thought this was really interesting. Now, remember, this is from 11 years ago. And look at these headlines. Okay, you above Crackinfilms, if you see these headlines, Hollywood and the Japanese horror film, Man Bites Dog, a gorilla film, postmodernism in Wayne's World, the gothic sensibility in Black Swan. I knew when I found this article, I'm like, I've come to the right place. So here it is, Crackinfilms, evaluating fan power, the influence of online fandom on film production, promotion, and distribution. I mean, come on. For me, this is like catnip. I had to share this with you. An introduction. Fandom and the active audience. I'm your number one fan, whether spoken by a teenager at a science fiction convention or by Annie Wilkes, Kathy Bates in Misery, made by Rob Reiner. These words can be just as distressing as they can be gratifying. Indeed, fans are often the toughest critiques of the people they deeply admire. Of course, the wide majority are not the intense, obsessive, and murderous stereotypes that Annie characterizes. Really? Times have changed. However, they do expect the best from their cultural heroes, whether writers, directors, actors, or fictional characters, and thus claim a right to express themselves on their favorite texts. Fandom, after all, is born of a balance between fascination and frustration. If media content didn't fascinate us, there would be no desire to engage with it. But if it didn't frustrate us on some level, there would be no drive to rewrite or remake. That comes from Jenkins, 2006, page 258. This is why fans never hesitate to read a film against the grain, reinterpreting it in the writing or artwork. If they are disappointed by a text they used to admire, they will strive to provide direct feedback. Janet Stager explains that this extreme affection and need to share opinions expressed by fans comes from not only desires for power and control, but also from a need to find emotional significance through the lives of individuals, either fictional or part of the fan community. This constant reappropriation of the text led Henry Jenkins to refer to fans as textual poachers. The poaching analogy characterizes the relationship between readers and writers as an ongoing struggle for the possession of the text and for control over its meanings. In emphasizing a certain power struggle between producer and consumer, as well as a desire to personalize the meaning of the text, Jenkins disproves the argument that all film and television spectators are passive and easy to manipulate. In fact, as Stephen King writes, Stephen King writes, the fan can be considered the epitome of the active audience. Apart from simply watching, fans purchase, engage with, appropriate, share, communicate, debate, and create. They preview and constantly review their chosen texts and seek out and exchange all possible information relating to those texts. In short, they are regarded as more actively active than mainstream audiences. In the attempt to evaluate the evolution of the fan community's power within the film industry since the advent of the internet, it is this active and creative definition of fandom that will be studied in the following chapters. The fans that strive to engage with a film, its producers, and the fan community in order to connect more directly with the textual universe. The stereotype of the obsessive, narrow-minded fan will not be considered, as they represent a minority that is often seen as negative by the fan community itself. Indeed, as a Star Trek fan points out in the documentary Trekkies, made by my friend Roger Nygaard, the word fan is actually an abbreviated form of fanatic, and there are some people who fit that category who are the people who really do need to get a life. But most fans are pretty normal people who have a hobby, who have a sense of the desire to escape, and, they know it's a show. Nobody really gets lost in it. It's just fun. Really? Is it? Is it just fun? Do we just get lost in it? Fans of film franchises and exploitation genres will be particularly relevant to this study as they are part of established and particularly active fan communities. Furthermore, the work of Henry Jenkins, who has studied fandom for over 3 decades, will constitute an essential support to the argument. The perception of fans by theorists in the film industry will be examined in the first section. This will raise debates over the fans' rights to assert power over a film's meaning and the part they played in valorizing popular culture before the advent of the internet. The second section will explore the ways in which the internet has contributed to a certain empowerment of film fans. And finally, the newfound influence of online fans in the film industry will be investigated by looking at various cases of movies that have involved fans in the production, promotion, and distribution process. These examples will ultimately highlight ways in which the film industry can potentially enhance a film's success by involving online fans. Wow. This was only 11 years ago, but it seems so far away, doesn't it? Now, I'm just going to read this one little section, and I'm not going to read this whole article, but I am going to put it in the chat so you can read it because it's fascinating. It's also fascinating seeing where we've come in the YouTube space since then. So let me just throw this. I'm going to put the whole article, and you can follow along at home if you want. But and I'm going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I'm just going to read this little bit here. Number 1, the powerless fan. As the active audience described above, fans often express their passion for a chosen canon of texts in a very informed and critical manner. They may research all that is linked to their favorite films. from its producers and influences to the opinions of the rest of the fan community. They will often be determined to write about their thoughts and interpretations and to share those thoughts with the widest audience possible. They may also actively seek to meet the actors, directors, or other cultural producers that are involved in the film for interviews that will later be shared with other fans through fanzines, internet blogs, or amateur film websites such as YouTube. Oh, the olden days. In many ways, their activity is similar to that of the professional film critic who will only analyze films and express their opinions on them after having gathered a certain amount of knowledge concerning the context of production. When Mark Kermode lists the 5 essential ingredients of a proper film review, he describes little more than the activities of a film fan. Film criticism, if it is done properly, should involve opinion, description, contextualization, analysis, and if you're lucky, entertainment. Apparent differences between scholar and fan writing would be that critics review a far wider range of films and focus less on entertainment than fans would. Thus, comparatively, fans could be considered unprofessional critics in their domain of speciality. In fact, many could be considered experts of certain texts since they've constructed their opinions from extensive research. This may include anything that has been published on the subject and more. Previous works by the director, documentaries, writings of other fans and professional critics, newspaper and online articles, as well as Q&As with the stars and producers at conventions. Discussing fans of television series, Henry Jenkins echoes this idea of expertise. Fans often display a close attention to the particularity of television narratives that put academic critics to shame. Within the realm of popular culture, fans are the true experts. They constitute a competing educational elite, albeit one without official recognition or social power. It is because of this lack of recognition that fans are not taken seriously, no matter how much work they put in their art or criticism. However, it could be argued that the original reason bringing film scholars to exercise in their domain is that, in essence, they are film fans. What is it, then, that drastically differentiates fans and scholars in their writing? Matt Hill believes that rather than being about knowledge and understanding of the text, the distinctions have more to do with the rhetoric, style, and applications of fan and academic criticism. Fan criticism does differ from academic criticism in significant ways. The subjective and impassioned engagement with the material, the rejection of specialized technical language and theoretical authority, and the tendency to focus on personal rather than institutional explanations. Here, the choice of the term rejection is evocative, and it reflects a point made consistently in the writings of Hills and Henry Jenkins, that a mutual exclusion persists between what Hill calls fan scholars, scholars who draw on their fandom for their academic writing, and scholar fans, fans who use academic theorizing within their fan writing. Scholar fans are typically looked down on as not being proper academics, while fan scholars are typically viewed within fandom as pretentious or not real fans. The label of pretension attached to scholars explains why fans reject the writing style of their professional counterparts. They do not consider themselves as being part of a higher culture, but as lovers of popular culture. Fans, therefore, make their works as accessible and personal as possible. In contrast, academics strive to develop theories intended for other scholars and critics. Their writings may be considered too specialized and conceptual for popular understanding, while the applications of fan writing are considered to be focused on entertainment rather than theoretical advancement. Considering the ideological division between fans and scholars, one can argue whether fan activities, including their criticism and artistic interpretation, expressed in fan art and fan fictions, do indeed have less cultural value than academic activities, such as criticism, conference discussions, and the production of subversive art films. This has been debated at length by various theorists. All right, I think you could kind of see why I want to touch on this article, and I have to say it gave me great delight to find it, come across it today. Yes, it's very academic, but there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First, the box office of The Little Mermaid. I think now there have been review bombs before. There have been all kinds of things that we've been talking about for the last couple of years, how fan backlash this, screaming about that. But this is really the first time that I want to read something from Deadline. This is an article that was on Deadline today, published at 1 p.m. by Anthony D'Alessandro. Little Mermaid swimming against strong tides at overseas box office, leaving break-in even in question. In a rare situation for a Disney tentpole, particularly a live-action title based on a treasured classic animated musical, The Little Mermaid looks to bank more at the domestic box office ultimately than overseas, with $300 million to $350 million U.S., and $260 million abroad. Now, I'm just going to flat out say it. This is a disaster. This was a movie that was almost, if you had asked me about what the box office of The Little Mermaid was going to be, the live action, I would have said it's going to be comparable to Aladdin. It's $1 billion easy. Why wouldn't you think that? So, $260 million abroad, they're now saying, and maybe $350 million U.S. So you're looking at $600 million worldwide. At that level, per finance sources, off a reported $250 million production cost and $140 million global marketing spend. So remember what they're saying. So the movie cost $250 million to make, and they spent $140 million on marketing. So that's almost $400 million to make this film and put it out. Conventional wisdom says movies have to gross 3 times what they cost in order to break even. That means you're looking at $1.2 million for this movie to break even, to be even really profitable. The Little Mermaid could very well break even. However, anything in the low $400 million global threshold, and this fish is apt to be sinking to a loss of around $20 million. Not a huge disappointment, but a disappointment nonetheless, one film finance insider told Deadline. Given the blockbuster streak often associated with Disney, the studio's summer slate remains in a precarious position after it boldly world premiered 2 major titles in Cannes to lackluster reviews, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and Pixar's Elemental, which is also doing badly. Little Mermaid's ebb tide at the box office is extreme when juxtaposed against the high water mark seen from the last Memorial Day Disney live-action feature adaptation of a cartoon, Aladdin, back in 2019. That Will Smith pick cleared $1.05 billion worldwide, 66% of that gross generated from abroad, which also counted $53.4 million from China. Little Mermaid's China ticket sales were non-existent, with a 2.5 million start. Given the quick burn of U.S. titles in the PRC, some believe that the Rob Marshall-directed musical may not even get to double-digit final grosses there. Should The Little Mermaid break even, it would be a rare feat for a tentpole to do so on the back of its domestic box office. Typically, Disney titles seeing a 50-50 split between domestic and international box office are movies such as 2018's Christopher Robin and 2016's Pete's Dragon. Again, the slowdown with The Little Mermaid, despite a strong start stateside of $118.8 million over the 4-day Memorial Day holiday, over the casting of star Halle Berry. Actually, I should say this. Hang on. Let me start that again. Again, the slowdown with The Little Mermaid, despite a strong start stateside of $118.8 million over the 4-day Memorial Day holiday, and a running total through yesterday of $130.2 million, stems from the backlash the picture has received in certain offshore markets, i.e. Korea, China, France, and Germany, over the casting of star Halle Bailey in the title role, as well as the review bombing. Hopeful box office sources maintain that the pic's opening in Japan, as well as buoyant results in Mexico, the UK, Italy, Brazil, and Australia, will get The Little Mermaid to the final tally of $260 million overseas. In a break-even scenario off $560 million global box office, meaning a net profit of $71 million before participations and residuals are accounted for, we're told that The Little Mermaid's global revenues would amount to $547 million against its combined production, global theatrical, and home entertainment marketing expenses of $476 million. The PIC's revenues broken down include $267 million in global theatrical film rentals, $100 million net in domestic pay, free TV, and what Disney pays itself to put the movie on Disney Plus, and $80 million in international TV and streaming. Basically, this movie's not doing well. And remember, the studio sees about half of the box office, and they don't even get half of China. So, and then they've got Elemental, which isn't doing well, which, by the way, we saw 25 minutes at CinemaCon in 3D, and I quite enjoyed it. It might be the case of Lightyear. They showed us the first 30 minutes of the movie, and we were all screaming that this is going to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Then, of course, we saw the rest of the movie, and it didn't quite work out that way. But the point of all this, and now coming on the heels of, the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is coming out. What does all this have to do with being a fan? What I find really interesting about what has happened in the fan community, what's happened here in the YouTube space, and it's, in a way, it's kind of distressing to me personally as somebody who's worked on many films, started out as a production assistant and worked my way up. I've directed a movie, I've produced movies, I've edited movies. You know, I know how hard it is to make a film. And here's something that it's beginning to bother me, increasingly bother me more and more. People are now holding one movie that has nothing to do with another movie against that movie. Like, for instance, Disney had a Star Wars problem. And their Star Wars problem has grown, especially amongst us, the fan community, and now the journalists of the world. It's not just Kathleen Kennedy. It's an entire corporation and their approach to things. You know, 5 years ago, or maybe let's go back a little further. Let's go back to 2015 when The Force Awakens came out. Disney, and you had Marvel, arguably Marvel at the height of its powers, leading up into Infinity War and Endgame. Just 8 years ago, the idea that Disney would be in this position was unfathomable. You know, you never would have thought that Disney would be anywhere other than on top of the world. And yet now, what I find distressing is that we have a whole community of people wanting not just Disney to fail, but all of the filmmakers like Rob Marshall and James Mangold and all the people that are working on these movies and all the hundreds and thousands of people that work on these films. We're starting to take gleeful, we're dancing on the graves of a lot of these people that have tried to do nothing but their best work. And as somebody who loves motion pictures and loves all the different facets of picture making and all the different people that work on these movies, I find this attitude to be extraordinarily depressing to me personally. And, you know, for me, when I was growing up, when I was a little kid, there was not a lot of good science fiction, fantasy, and horror. You could count the good movies on one hand. You know, pre-Star Wars, I think everybody would say, okay, pre-1977, what were the greatest science fiction films ever made? Fritz Lang's Metropolis. You know, that would be maybe George Méliès From the Earth to the Moon, if you want to go back that far. But 1927, Metropolis, that was seen as pretty much a classic. All the way up, I mean, the 50s, you had You had War of the Worlds, maybe When Worlds Collide. You have, of course, had Day the Earth Stood Still. You had Forbidden Planet, 2001, Planet of the Apes. And if you went into the 70s, you had, other movies. I don't think they would be considered necessarily classics, but I love them. All the 70s dystopian movies like Soylent Green, things like that. Soylent Green. Was that good? The Omega Man? Rollerball? Boy and His Dog? Anyway, to get any science fiction, fantasy, and horror film when I was growing up, I was discerning, but I was just happy to go see this. I would watch garbage. Movies that were just terrible, the Star Creatures or Terror from Beyond Space. Not a great movie, but Michael Gough, who played Alfred in Tim Burton's Batman movies, he played the Moon Master. It's not a great movie, but I loved it anyway. I mean, I would just love anything to do with science fiction, fantasy, and horror just because I was getting a science fiction, fantasy, or horror film or fantasy film. I just watch genre films. I got excited when Hunter from the Future was coming out. Shouldn't have, to be honest. I'm not proud of that. I mean, Megaforce. When Megaforce was coming out, that was the summer of 82. Such a great summer for genre cinema, and even Megaforce, I was excited about it. Until I saw the strings on all the parachuters. It was not good. Not a very good use of the Introvision system. And now, cut to now. Now, I love James Mangold as a filmmaker. I do. I go all the way back to Copland with him, Identity, Night and Day, Tom Cruise movie he made. Undervalued. 3:10 to Yuma was great. Walk the Line was great. We all loved Logan. I loved the Wolverine. I didn't love the Wolverine as much as I wanted to, but I still liked it. Going to Japan, the Silver Samurai stuff. Here's the thing. James Mangold has done nothing but make movies that I've enjoyed. I mean, talk about and if I didn't love them, they were good. They were serviceable. I never felt like I went to a James Mangold movie and thought, that sucked. No, James Mangold never really made a movie that sucked to me. Now, it's as if James Mangold made, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, to be fair, I have not seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, but I'm reading these articles, I'm reading these reviews, and I have to be honest. The movie sounds right up my alley. A 20-minute long opening sequence in Nazi Germany. Mads Mikkelsen, 1969 landing on the moon. That's where Indiana Jones finds himself. Some device made by Archimedes. Time travel. There's nothing. There's nothing. And I know that there's a lot of people that have been bitching about Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Now, here's what I don't understand. Did anybody not watch Fleabag? Fleabag was awesome. And somehow I understand that this tough chick archetype, but like in the Indiana Jones movies, there was always strong women, just like Princess Leia was a strong woman at the beginning of Star Wars. The first main character you meet other than R2 and 3PO is Princess Leia, kicking ass, lying to Vader, secreting plans on R2-D2. She was badass. Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? She's cracking jokes and putting people down even after she's been tortured by Lord Vader. She gets in Tarkin's face. So Indiana Jones gave us, Willie Scott, a little annoying, but still not a woman to be demure and take things sitting down. She gets up and does what she needs to do. Sure, she shrieked a lot, but she was based on a certain kind of a character that appeared in the 30s and 40s and movies like that. But Karen Allen, Marion Ravenwood, badass. Pastore. I don't have a shot glass, but if I did. And so everyone's all upset about Phoebe Waller-Bridge and have been for years. We've been listening about this for years, as if she was going to come and emasculate Indiana Jones. Well, we had strong women in Last Crusade. Karen Allen comes back in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And to me, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is not a California beauty. She's sort of unconventionally beautiful. Like, I believe her I believe her as Indiana Jones's goddaughter, as Toby Jones's daughter, whatever. I don't know what their relationship is yet, but the thing that bugs me so much now is we're not even waiting. Like, if a movie comes out and it's terrible, hey, I'm the first person to say, this is terrible, or I hate it, or as a fan, like I read fan critics. I mean, I went to film school. I've studied academically, I've studied films, but I've also been a fan my whole life. And, you know, when I went in to see J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, I wanted to love it. I did. It gives me no pleasure to come out of a movie that I wanted to love and then wanting to put a teaspoon in my eyes and scrape my eyeballs out of my skull and feed them to my dogs because I hated something so much and I wanted to forget the memory of what I saw. Maybe that's hyperbolic, I know. But that's kind of how I felt. It just, you know, it's frustrating to see all of this hatred for things that we haven't seen yet. And I feel that, you know, I haven't seen The Little Mermaid. I saw a sequence with Melissa McCarthy, which I liked. And it's got Rob Marshall directing, you know, and Haley Bailey, or it's Halle Bailey, right? Halle Bailey. I'm always getting her name wrong. But to me, as a fantasy creature, she's beautiful and she has an incredible singing voice. And I understand there's other reasons for the backlash. But, you know, they've even the movie is, the setting of the film is in the Caribbean. So I always thought it was odd that where did Sebastian the Crab come from? Now it makes sense. And so does Miss Bailey's, the way she looks makes sense. I think she looks like a fantastic mermaid. But now we as fans, we would rather hate the corporate parents and hate their product. Now, again, if it's terrible in Disney, I love the MCU, but I hated Thor Love and Thunder and really didn't like Quantumania. And I don't like that I didn't like them. And it bothers me. And I think that there's somebody asleep at the wheel. Then you can get angry. Now with Disney, it's kind of a pattern. But even with their live action, look, I know I joke about Lily James. I'll go see, I mean, she could read the dictionary and I watch her on stage for 5 hours. But Cinderella, which is something I didn't want to go see, was really good. Kenneth Branagh directing a Cinderella movie, that was a really great live action adaptation. I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I didn't even expect it. It was one of those movies where I was kind of dreading. I'm like, I'm a grown man. I'm going to go see Cinderella. Why? And it turned out it was a delightful film. You know why? Because a great movie is a great movie. Whether it's aimed at children or aimed at adults, a great movie is a great movie. You know, it doesn't matter, and I can get behind any film if it's well done. It doesn't matter what age group. It doesn't matter what it's about. A great movie is a great movie. A great story is a great story. And you know, a lot of people are loving The Little Mermaid, and it really it makes me, I'm bummed out that a film that by all for all intents and purposes, the film is beautifully made by people that really cared and put their all into crafting a wonderful movie, and it's getting destroyed not because it's terrible. Maybe some people think it's terrible, but I think that I almost feel like we're now living in a world where we're like the villagers going after Frankenstein, where we believe that every single thing this corporate entity touches now all of a sudden needs to be terrible. And I feel like we as fans have turned. And am I saying that we should just gobble up any swill that's fed to us? No, you know I'm not saying that. You've heard me rail against the dying of the light many times with franchises that people hate, you know, and things that... I love Christopher Nolan. I did not like Tenet very much. But I'll tell you one thing. I might not have liked Tenet, but that movie didn't... They swung for the fences on that movie. I don't feel that Christopher Nolan... I think Christopher Nolan, it was a little perhaps muddled, but I loved watching that movie. I mean, even though I didn't like it ultimately, it's not like I watched that movie and thought it was offensive. I thought it was beautifully made. I love the acting. It was really intriguing. I just don't think it worked. You know, it just didn't work. But I would never say, oh, that movie sucked. I would never say that because it didn't suck. I didn't think it worked. Certainly not as well as his other films. But I don't know if, and I think that there's a real difference there. There's a difference between something that sucks and the difference between something that is not very good. And I think that or something that missed the mark. So there's things that suck that are just demonstrably bad. Then there's things that missed the mark. And then there's things that are wrong-headed or whatever. But I feel like now we are talking ourselves into hating things before we've even seen them. for other reasons than, I mean, movies should be judged on their own merits, and for nothing else, And this idea that, well, corporations have agendas. Yes, they do. They do have agendas because they're corporations, and I understand that. And there has been agendas that we have had a very vocal minority of people driving a certain agenda that doesn't, first of all, it doesn't reflect the population. And it also, this agenda is, let's call it the identity politics agenda, is now starting to, it's become the very thing that this identity politics era wanted to do, which was foster more tolerance, is ultimately going to backfire, because people's identity has been became more important than the message. And it's like everything else. When something's no longer about the message and it's about the people who are delivering the message, the people that were delivering the message are now more important than the message they're delivering. And they've been like so many people throughout history. They think they're doing the right thing, but no. Now they're crusaders. Now they're on a quest, and that's what's making they're deriving all of their self-worth from their desire to bring. And it doesn't work, and we're seeing it's gonna be a horrible backlash, and by the way, deserved, unfortunately, and there'll be a correction, but it's unfortunate to me that the great work that people are doing when it comes to things like entertainment. I mean, after all, yes, is it crassly commercial that Disney remakes their animated classics? Yes, but that's not unexpected, and sometimes I thought the Will Smith Aladdin was pretty good. I liked Cinderella. The Lion King, while I thought unnecessary, was beautifully done. Jon Favreau did a tremendous job. I loved The Jungle Book. The live-action Jungle Book. I was surprised at how much I liked it. Now, do I know it's crassly commercial? Sure. But there's good crassly commercial and there's bad crass commercialism. I was really disappointed by Jurassic World Dominion. I'm like, that's what you came up with? I didn't like it, not because it wasn't well made and not because the actors weren't giving it their all. They were. I'm like, this is the story that you came up with? That's where I think it failed. Like, who decided that was the movie they were going to make? Not just Colin Trevorrow, but so anyway, look, my point here is this. Don't pre-hate things. Sometimes you might be surprised. If you pre-hate something, even if that thing turns out to be good, you're never going to think it's good because you've already spent so much time, money, and invested your thoughts, your being, your soul into hating something. So you won't even be able to see if it's good or not. Now, I'm not telling you how to live your life. But I think we're starting to see that this community, us, we imagination connoisseurs, we are damaging ourselves because our cynicism and our hatred and the fact that we've been burned. I get it. I understand Marvel Phase 4, kind of inexplicable to me. Direction they've traveled, especially, I mean, I think that the Ant-Man films are a really great example. I really enjoyed Ant-Man 1 and 2. Ant-Man 3, did they not see what made Ant-Man 1 and 2? What was so great about those movies is how, I call them grounded. I know, a shrinking character, but they were relatively grounded. The world wasn't at stake. They're in the real world, corporate espionage. Character just wants to be a good dad. When you get to Quantumania, I'm like, why did they decide to put Ant-Man in this movie? It made no sense to me. There was mistakes made, legitimate mistakes. But anyway, I just think I'm going to go into Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny thinking that it sounds like it's good to me, and even now mainstream critics, it's all this pre-hatred has infected everybody, because we're all watching the same stuff. We're all watching the same YouTube stuff. And look, I have a lot of fellow colleagues, and I consider them colleagues on YouTube, that we have great disagreements, and I understand that. But, I always trust my fellow YouTubers, whether it's Critical Drinker, whether it's Gary Beekler, whether it's Nerdrotic. I trust these guys, even with as much pre-hate as they might have for something. I know that people like Gary Beekler, and I know that people like the Critical Drinker, they recognize when something is good, and they'll say so. Even if they've been hating on something for 6 months or whatever, If it's pretty good, they'll say so. And that's important. That's important to me. If people can actually, if they can put aside whatever their preconceived notions are and actually judge something for what it is and say, you know what, that wasn't bad. Those are the people I trust. And I know that there's a lot of people in the community. I'm not pillaring the entire community, the online YouTube community, because the people that are smart about it will always recognize whether something's good or not. It's self-evident. I am not one of those people that believes art is subjective, entirely subjective. People's opinions are subjective, but I do think that there's objective greatness in art. I know people are always fighting me on this, but it all comes back down to there's a reason why there are the top 100 AFI films. There's a reason why there's a consensus on things. And when there's a consensus, you can look and ask yourself, well, why is that? Why is Casablanca considered one of the greatest films ever made? And I'll tell you something. Educated people that are educated, you understand, okay, I'm watching a movie that was made in the early 40s. I get that. I don't watch black and white movies. That to me, if you don't watch black and white movies, your opinion of Casablanca is by definition invalidated, because you can't sit there and say I don't watch a movie that was made of a certain era and then expect to judge it. You can't. You're not giving it a fair shake. You'll never get. And I understand. Maybe color movies are the only way you can go, and that's fine. I don't begrudge you that, but you then don't get the right to turn around and judge Casablanca being a good story or a bad story. I mean, you can look. Anybody can do whatever they want. I'm not saying that. No, you can't do it, but your judgment is clouded. That's all I'm saying. My whole thing, the pre-hate. I mean, if something sucks, by all means, say it sucks, but it's getting. The pre-hatred is, and it infects a movie like Little Mermaid that I don't think probably deserves it. It deserved to succeed at the box office, and Halle Bailey deserved to get the kind of star turn and the love. And maybe, you know what? By my own logic, maybe like a great movie like The Shawshank Redemption, a movie that did not make a lot of money at first. People discovered it on home video and on cable. And they realized, I mean, Shawshank Redemption is legitimately one of the great movies of all time, I think. But people didn't want to see it at first. They're like, I don't want to see that. What's that movie about? I don't even know. I'm not going to go. Their preconceived desire or understanding that they wouldn't like it kept them from going to see the movie in the theater. I mean, hell, if everybody went to see it in the theater, it might have won Best Picture over Forrest Gump. Might have done it, but it didn't, even though it was nominated for Best Picture. Anyway, that's all I was thinking. What are you guys thinking? let me just see. We got a few more. Scott Bartholomew says anything by Christopher Nolan is gold. And I wonder what AI thinks of identity politics. That is a good question. I don't know. But anyway, let me see. I don't know if I have any more letters to read, because I didn't ask Mike to send me more letters. No, I didn't get any letters today, so. Yeah. Anyway. So I think I have come to the end of this stream. I think I have. So, well, Dustin in this thing says that Shawshank example is not on point for today's. It's not. But I wasn't trying to equate Shawshank Redemption with what's going on now. But I am saying that people decided, based on the marketing and not knowing. I mean, anyone that knew or read the story, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. The original story is called Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. It's in different seasons. Stephen King's 1982 collection, different seasons, that has The Body in it, which became Stand By Me. It has Apt Pupil, which became Bryan Singer's Apt Pupil, and it has a fourth story called The Breathing Method that's never been adapted. But what I mean is people just pre-decided they weren't going to dig it. You know, nowadays, not that they would hate it, but anyway. But yeah, this is the last stream of May. I want to thank, first of all, I since it's the last stream of May, I want to thank everybody, all the new viewers, all the new subscribers of the channel. It's great to have all of you here. We've been having a lot of fun. all the new members. We've been having some great member chats. We got a lot of new stuff coming on down the pike, including our new panel show, which it's taking me a while to put everything together because I have to come up with a great panel, and it is going to be called The Imagination Connoisseurs. It is going to be a panel show. It is going to be a show in the mornings probably, whether it's at 10, 10:30, or 11. I don't know yet. Still putting all that together. I want to have all of you look at Lana Ewan's reviews. She's reviewing Psychotronic Cinema. She reviewed Jacob's Ladder this week, which I was really excited to see. And then, of course, King Tannic and his show, The Otaku Experience. There's another episode ready to go. I saw it in my email. I love that kid. So check out The Otaku Experience and our video game developer podcast, Architects of Imagination. So, and then there's a lot of things that RM is doing. And then we've, of course, got Midnight Musings. There's a lot of stuff happening, and it's only happening because you guys are watching it and you guys are enjoying it. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel generously via Super Chats and tips. And I want to thank especially Comic Book Girl 19, Danika 19, for coming on. And I want to tell all of you, go to the top of this chat, see the pinned comment, go to her Kickstarter and support it. She's looking, I'm not going to lie, she's looking to make a lot of money. It's hugely ambitious. What she wants to do is going to be great. If you've seen her Xmen videos, you know what she's capable of doing. So tell your friends. And yeah. So it's pretty great. So I want to thank her for coming. I didn't know she'd become a Buddhist. I think that's very interesting. Zachary Zabayle says, one of my favorite reactors watched Seven Samurai. Now she's approaching cinema. I'm a Frank Capra fan. What about you? Well, I mean, I love all those things. I mean, I've been watching Frank Capra movies my whole life. And then, of course, Seven Samurai. I mean, look, here's the thing about great cinema. Great cinema speaks for itself. It doesn't matter what other people think of it. The great movies are going to be great movies, usually for everybody. If you're an astute viewer or an astute experiencer of stories, you recognize when stories are great. Now, I understand there's things that you don't have to, if you don't like, I understand that. But a great story is a great story. So, and they speak for themselves. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson for being a great moderator. Thank you, Tom. I very much appreciate that. I want to thank everybody again for supporting the channel. And we'll be back tomorrow being June 1st. My God, moving into, are you ready for the summer? That means I'm going to go back and watch Meatballs. Anyway, thanks for being here. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to all of you, have a better night. And I will see you tomorrow.